In the bitterly cold temperatures across the barren plains of Cannonball, North Dakota, a standoff. On one side of the hill, members of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and their supporters. They call themselves the Water Protectors. They say the 1,000-plus mile pipeline, which would carry oil from North Dakota to Illinois, would threaten their water supply. Its route would cross underneath Lake Oahe. On the other side, police officers from 10 different states trying to keep order.
I do have friends from those communities out there that are being directly affected, but also it's one of these issues that affects a lot of Native people, even if we're not from North Dakota.
Liz Charlebois is a New Hampshire Native American from the Abenaki tribe. She has not traveled to Standing Rock yet, but has shipped medical supplies to those who remain camped there.
There are a lot of stereotypes and misinformation about Native people, and I think that this is one thing that helped bring Native people's issues to the forefront. And I think progressively over the years, Native issues have become more and more visible. But Standing Rock has really been the big one because so many people find a connection with protecting our drinking water.
There were days when I didn't spend a lot of time outside because the wind was just, and the wind would, it would knock you down, really.
Lincoln Soldati is a newly retired Portsmouth attorney and the former chief prosecutor for Strafford County. He watched what was unfolding more than 2,000 miles away. So just before the holidays, he left his wife and comfortable home, packed up his car, and drove to North Dakota by himself.
Without necessarily understanding why, I just felt compelled to go.
As a witness to this historic event, Lincoln wrote about his experience for indepthnh.org. This is what he saw when he approached the Oceti-Sakowin camp.
I was amazed at how large it was and how expansive it all was. People were in teepees and tents and large tents and small tents. There were some domes. And it just seemed to go on forever.
Not knowing what to expect, Lincoln attended daily meetings where he heard the same theme.
They kept repeating over and over many times so that you understood that this was a camp for prayer and ceremony. That's what they were there doing and for. And every meeting we had, regardless of what the meeting was for, began with a prayer and ended with a prayer.
Tribal members also talked about what would happen during these standoffs with authorities. Lincoln learned quickly from the lawyers who were there to volunteer their services about what might happen if he took part in an action and ended up on the other side of the law in jail.
Well, you couldn't participate in action unless you'd gone through an orientation. And then the other thing they would do is they would write with a Sharpie the phone number of the legal team on your arm, so that once you got arrested, because the police would often take everything, some people were strip searched and everything else, they would take everything from you, but you'd have that phone number, so you could call the legal team and then they would come and they would actually post your bail.
Lincoln never did get arrested, though he had no fear of that, but the longer he stayed, the more he discovered his purpose for being there.
That's why I was there. I was there to be of use. There were actions that were going on that I didn't participate in, primarily because I was washing dishes in the kitchen. I was helping to install a wood stove. I was troubleshooting a problem with a lighting system.
Troubleshooting internet access? That required some creativity. There was just one spot in the camp, and it was called Facebook Hill.
But it's called Facebook Hill because it's one of the few areas where you could get sometimes reception. In fact, there was like a bicycle there that people would get on and pedal. And what the bicycle did is it ran a generator so that you could charge your phone. So everybody would be up there and people would take turns on the bicycle and they'd have their phones all plugged in to charge their phones.
Back in Portsmouth, Lincoln's wife Kathleen was concerned, but oftentimes Facebook is how Kathleen kept up with what her husband was doing.
I would kind of wait for a certain time of day, figuring time difference, and he's a night owl, and I would try to see if he had posted something so I could find out like what had happened that day. Were there any photos? You know, I just wanted to know what his day was like.
Lincoln was present in early December when the Army Corps of Engineers denied a permit for construction of a key section of the pipeline, halting all construction. A victory for the water protectors, but their battle is not over.
They are fully aware of the struggles they have as a people in terms of many things that they're dealing with.
Before his journey, Lincoln said he did not consider himself very spiritual or religious, but after spending several weeks at Standing Rock, he came to appreciate the blessings of his experience.
For me, it wasn't necessarily the content of the prayer. It was the idea of it being a prayer and something that was, for these people, their heritage, their lineage.
You know, people that I would never expect to have been paying attention are really, really supportive, which is, it's pretty awesome.